Breaking news this morning.
I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched.
The Syrian military says at least 7 people are dead and 9 people were wounded in the U.S. strike. Here's a look at satellite images released today by the Department of Defense showing the airbase in Syria, which was struck by those missiles. Officials said 2 U.S. warships in the eastern Mediterranean Sea fired 59 Tomahawk missiles intended for a single target. Now, NBC News correspondent Edward Lawrence joins us from Washington to break down the attack and reaction.
Well, good morning, Brooke. This sends a message, according to members of Congress, that President Donald Trump will follow up his tough rhetoric. Now, so far, both Republicans and Democrats support this action. The United States launched nearly 5 dozen missiles in retaliation for the chemical attack blamed on Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad. President Donald Trump says Assad's actions, killing women and children with a deadly nerve agent, could not go unpunished.
There can be no dispute that Syria used banned chemical weapons, violated its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention, and ignored the urging of the UN Security Council.
59 Tomahawk missiles hit an airbase in Syria, where the planes that conducted the chemical attack are based. The president gave Russia a heads up about the U.S. strike to minimize casualties. He also called members of Congress.
Senator Graham and I have strongly recommended grounding his Air Force.
At most, we can hope that this will deter the regime from using chemical weapons again.
Some members of Congress say this sends a message to not only the Syrian government, but the rest of the world.
You can set the Mideast. You can get North Korea's attention, Russia's attention, Iran's attention.
It's very important that the Russian government consider carefully their continued support of the Assad regime.
I call on all civilized nations to join us in seeking to end the slaughter and bloodshed in Syria.
Even though members of Congress support this response, they say any escalation beyond missiles or airstrikes needs to go through Congress for approval to engage input from the American people. In Washington, Edward Lawrence, NBC 26.
Speaker Paul Ryan released a statement saying in part, this action was appropriate and just. These tactical strikes make clear that the Assad regime can no longer count on American inaction as it carries out atrocities against the Syrian people. Continuing coverage on the Syrian airstrike, mixed reaction pouring in from around the world this morning. Our Emily Byer joins us live in studio with more. Emily?
Brooke, the strikes are the first direct military action the U.S. has taken against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad since the country began their civil war. Britain, Australia, Israel, and Saudi Arabia say they back the military move, but Iran strongly condemned it. Russia called it an aggression and said it would call for an emergency UN meeting. Moscow also threatening to shut down all military cooperation with the U.S., saying Russian military will help Syria strengthen its air defense. President Trump later said there's no dispute Syria used chemical weapons, which broke international agreements, world leaders praising the decision.
We can say that the Australian government strongly supports the swift and just response of the United States. This was a calibrated, proportionate, and targeted response.
The Syrian government denies being behind Tuesday's chemical attack. Since the strike, we're seeing a shakeup in the markets. The major U.S. benchmarks ended slightly higher. The Standard & Poor's 500 index added 0.2%. Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.1%. The NASDAQ Composite gained 0.2%. We'll continue to update you with the very latest from this breaking news on air as well as online at NBC26.com. Reporting live in studio, Emily Byer, NBC 26.